High up in Uganda's mountains, in Kisoro at the extreme southwest, and here in Kapchorwa in the extreme east, beyond the tourist attractions, away from the electricity, the schools and the tarmac of the lowlands, and even before Uganda itself, there were people living in these Eden-like gardens. They still do.
manyoru sagatiak chuje gi nyoyo amu kolin anyoru kumnyade anyoru nguye kwake tuga alujego asop.
In 1896, Britain created Uganda and declared it their property. In 1936, the British colonial government came to these mountains and created a forest reserve, the property of the British Crown. Nobody was supposed to live here. In 1983, a Ugandan government made it an area for settlement for people who had not lived here before. In 1993, another Ugandan government reversed that decision. Again, nobody was allowed to live here, whether they had ever lived here before or not. In 2003, an agreement was reached as a result of a court case to turn back that government decision. To date, nothing further has been done to finally sort out who will and who will not live here, raising burning and often unanswered questions about identity, belonging and entitlement. Through all this, the Benet and people of Mount Elgon in Kapchorwa have struggled to hold on to their land, their culture and their way of life. This is a story about their struggle to live above the government's lines and about who has helped them and who has stood in their way. Before 1945, nearly 50% of Uganda's land was covered by lush green ancient forests. Like much of the neighboring Congo Basin, the Amazon Basin of South America, as well as the South Asian woodlands, these formed part of the world's great rainforests that nurture the planet. Today, only about 25% of Uganda remains wooded in this way. The reasons for this loss are many, but can be summarized in one phrase: the quest for development. The irony here is that the ordinary people, such as the Batwa and the Benet, who lived inside and protected these forests for centuries and were in turn protected by them, are now the biggest victims of a development process that is being implemented in their name but destroying them at the same time. And so we traveled high up into the mountains, beyond the tourist attractions, to talk with these remarkable peoples who had been living here a long time before a succession of governments started drawing lines in their earth and calling it development.
Where we are standing here, we have now this road, which is Kamnargut Mengia Road, and it is located in Taragon village. Now, when you view across there, you will see that we are viewing a school called Ligil Primary School, which was recently taken by government, but it was initiated by the community because the community bought that land. But in this land here, you will see that we have so many problems which were created by government. All this area you are seeing was given and allocated to the people by government in 1983. Officially, they allocated it up to the other cliff. Then after 10 years from 1983, that is 1992-93, this area was upgraded, or Mount Elgon was upgraded from the forest reserve to a national park. When it was upgraded, it brought a lot of contradicting issues. Because in the first place, the protected area was supposed to be demarcated. And these people brought up lines. And as you see the other school, where you see that school now, you can see those permanent houses. Then you can see the other houses, which are not permanent. Those ones, the line now ends there. We have a line called the surveyor's line, which marks off the 6,000 hectares. But what is disappointing about these lines is that government comes to make these lines without even consulting the people.
These lines were used to drive the Batwa out of their southwestern forest home and down into the agricultural lowlands. There, they became vulnerable to previously unfamiliar illnesses such as malaria, and now live as undervalued near vagabonds, often reduced to begging and suffering from very low self-esteem. This could be one possible future for the Benet.
No kureba kuba akaba umutwa no kugeza aho bagerize aho arashusha n'umupoto w'iro no kwambara kwenda hanari cyanguka ngo yambare nkako umupoto arambara oyi ana kanaracaho agume ariki anari kumukanyene.
These lines have wiped out cultures.
None muri gakondo ka kera tunarabatwa kura turora ni muri gakondo ico bikora ico twaraterekeraga none byaracitse nigo rutwa niho rwasigara none bagitunguka Zayiri bagiye kutugeramo turi mu gahinga imbundiragamba igambye tuba tuvuyeyo mu kuvayo tugeze muri kino cera gati ca Gisoro tubaye abantu muratwemera turakundana nk'aba tunarabatwa kugeza na kino gihe niyo dutangiye isamba twarivuyemo guco nuko tuba ikinyarwanda kiruzi none tugiye kuvayo twabuze ico ikidufasha ngaho twabonye ngutu twaci tukabona nk'agahene tukabona n'agakambe tukazakagura umwana we none nibyo turiho tuba abashyitsi bacu.
These lines have also created new conflicts.
Government contradicts itself by again making these lands, and yet they were the ones who gave this land up to 1983 to 1983, a cliff line. So as we talk now, you can see people harvesting maize, but where people are harvesting maize above that school, people are supposed to be evicted because they are assumed they are in the national park. So because of these restrictions by Uganda Wildlife Statute, by our brothers from MUA, because they are acting on behalf of government, these people have not been allowed now to construct even schools.
Let me introduce my name. I'm Cheptegei William. Cheptegei means a man born at the veranda. So I am a settler in the Benet community. And maybe at this juncture I will inform you that in Benet, we have various people who have settled in the area. It's like referred to normally as a Benet settlement area. So we have the indigenous people who are originally born there, they have been there from time immemorial. And then we also have people who are internally displaced, the ones we now refer to as settlers. These are people who are displaced by the Karamojong cattle rustling problem in the northern side of the district, that's on the slopes, the lower slopes of the mountain. So this issue of people fleeing the northern parts of the district because of the Karamojong rustlers actually is it has taken a long time now. It started around about 1969, but wasn't very bad at that time because the Karamojangs were using spears and arrows. But now, after the 1979 war, many guns fell in the hands of the Karamojong. So they became now more fierce and they became more destructive. So people who were forced to flee their homes from Ngenge area, the Greater Ngenge, Greek River, as far as the Bukwa side. So people were forced to flee into the mountains, in the forest, and join their brothers, the Benet people, what we normally refer to as Ndorobos. And as forest dwellers, they were not cultivators at all. And they also keeping livestock, animals like cows, sheep, and goats, and so forth. So that's their way of life.
These lines have led to numerous arrests and assaults on the Benet people. In addition, reports of sexual assault and rape of Benet womenfolk out collecting firewood are commonplace. Benet herdsmen have even lost their lives. In all cases, the fingers of accusation all point to officials of the Uganda Wildlife Authority, commonly referred to as UWA.
Stephen. Agura la lekwe. Nye kyo ye. Ndo Ngejo ko ron kyo da. Ye ko ba jala nga. Kor ke da werin na. Baba ji ga wa. Mi kwa gisi. Mabanda mbar. Manda tong ba sama ni guna ni ko takas bala ngo. Mabanda sama tagal ne la mongan bala ngo. Ni sa nyale. Amita ba kyo ulle winda ni ko ro man nyale ko. Jori ti ga giti nyale tagal. Ni sa banda no ne ko joni. Amita ane no ne. Ni sabona nya ta ke unde nya la unde na ke ji je mutyo ji ba de ne brio la makite ba sabona ni mi ba banda ni le ke so ma mungu de la je mo ko bi ga je utte ju ko te ga skera la ji la ne kede ne ra te go bela go lo te jo unde nya abaran ko ko gis ko na ga lo ju ni setani tu unde nya.
The situation with Mount Elgon National Park and its Benet in particular and the community in general, that this is a historical problem which arose and started growing, and all the administrations have left it there. Even the governments have left it there, and every year it grows and becomes more complicated. And attempts to solve the problem have always been half-baked. So the problem is solved halfway and left there, and then it grows again. If any attempt to solve it, you have to start from the beginning. And yet the problem was enlarged.
This house was burnt in 1990 by Ua.
That is why you can still see this black this sharper end.
Which used to be on the ground. And when it got burnt, it ended up here. So this part was on the ground.
Do you know who was living here?
We know.
What was the name of the person living here?
He was called Boyo. Boyo Kakusum.
What has happened to him since then?
He died.
He died.
He died how?
He went down and died of malaria.
Of malaria?
Yeah.
What's your boy? After losing the whole of his animals.
What happened to his animals?
Taken by Ua during the burning time.
Do you know how many animals there were?
We had about 8.
Tell us more about how the animals were taken. Were they taken before the house was burnt or after? You tell us that.
On the same day. On the same day. Because there was an operation. So these are the remains of the...
So what, they came during the day? They came at night? Or?
During the day.
No warning?
Broad daylight.
No, without any warning. They just get you, tell you burn your own house. They don't warn.
They say burn your own house.
They say burn your own house. Burn your own, without removing whatever is inside.
Why don't they let you go with your animals?
They would take there and they retain the animals. If you don't have money to go and untie a cow. Per night, if it stays there, 10,000 per cow.
So it is some kind of business which they do it at the local levels. So that is what they do.
So to pay, where do you get the money to pay now for your animals?
Of course, if they get like 10,
you have to sell one.
You have to look for somebody to buy one. Then you come with the 9.
But you must pay for 10 first of all, and then the other buyer takes now, and then you come with the 9.
And if they catch you again?
It is the same system. Today, tomorrow, the next day.
And if you fail completely and the cows
they
stay
take it.
And what do they do with them?
I think they go and sell.
A gentleman called Boyo and his son were taken out of their huts. They were ordered to burn down their huts with all the property inside it, and all their cattle was taken away from them, and they were ordered to go right down and live in the valley.
I'm hearing this for the first time. I've been there 2 years and a half. I didn't hear this particular incident you are talking about. That is where they would go to the tribunal, but at the moment, at least, we tell them this is possible, this is not possible, or this is how these are the limits of what you want to do, and we move on.
So you're saying that if they are unable to persuade you to give them permission, that is the end of the matter at present?
You know, these are natural resources, and the principle is, because even our mission states there's a phrase there called sustainable management. So if we feel something, your action is not going to lead to sustainable management of that kind of resource, then we shall explain to you and give you the data.
If the entire purpose of the appeal tribunal, as it states here, is to allow an applicant to appeal against a decision made by management, and it doesn't exist, and you are insisting that you have the full capacity to make always the right decision, are you not saying that actually it doesn't really need to exist?
It should exist, but we
so
haven't.
How can you have full confidence in the service you're providing if there's no appeal mechanism?
The checks and balances you talked about,
yes.
How do you check against yourself?
For us, we shall put the facts bare on the table.
For whom?
For you, for and everybody to see. There's
Who is the judge here? Who is perpetrating?
now, because when you are applying, you are not, it is not a matter of life and death.
Our mandate as the Land Alliance is very clear. We work on the land rights of the poor. It had become common practice in this country that every time you're creating a protected area, you're just...
If you're insisting that there must be enforcement
Yeah.
and empowerment
Yeah.
and enabling,
Yeah.
and at the same time, the very mechanism within the law that allows for the mediation of that doesn't exist, and at the same time, you do not believe in daily litigation on point-by-point issue, how then will those rights be? Who will enforce them and how?
But I think that is to trivialize the issue. The whole enforcement of this statute does not depend on the tribunal. There's a much bigger institutional mechanism set up under the Wildlife Statute to ensure enforcement of these rights. The tribunal is just one aspect. What is the point I am making is that even as we agitate for the establishment of the tribunal, we need the existing institutions to function. What is the point I am making is if the Wildlife Authority Game Rangers Department exists and it is not functioning very well, because we are getting reports of beatings and burning people's property and deaths that are reported. We have cases well reported and documented in the police station. What guarantee is there? So you see, the point I'm making is that you must have, I know it makes a lot of sense when you are an analyst, because the first obvious thing that is missing within the whole institutional setup is a tribunal to focus on it. The point I am making is that you should have a holistic look at these things, that yes, there is a lacuna in the law in that in terms of implementation, the tribunal is missing, but that even the existing institutions are not implementing their mandate as they should.
For generations, the women of Benet have been the economic backbone of their community. This role became even more critical after the Benet lost much of their cattle. Their harvesting of resources from the forest will only continue if the right to use the forest, provided for in the Wildlife Act, is upheld. Once again, it is a question of access.
Supposing he denies someone these rights,
Yeah.
somebody in the Benet community,
Yeah.
what will those people in the Benet community do next?
The answer to that is pretty obvious. Of course, they want to challenge that decision. Yeah? When that takes you to the point that you've decided to highlight out of this whole process, the absence of a tribunal.
No, we're asking you because if we go back to the beginning, we said that now that this consent judgment exists,
Yeah.
and an agreement has been legally arrived at,
Yeah.
that the rights of these people must be upheld.
Yeah.
We are asking you, how is it practically going to work?
Yeah, but the whole consent judgment actually, I think, was being derailed. It wasn't about access to the forest. It was access to the agricultural land.
If there are families that have to move, there are just a few families, and these are just recent settlers there. Probably a young man has grown into, is also establishing his own home.
Ayo mujungu ya nyabale. Nyero ba gorongoria.
Kajiga nyirata. Damwaga nyekije wone nyekije yeni.
Ah, manga nam nyeji nye kemana kemana.
De kije woni ni ke sala muje ki bona mwaga anata.
Kimagi de che jiburi ba ta gu nyo. Kita bon sabanda ngajane ne kemiat ko korma je pa ta je ko poni pa bare. Agam mu gonje. Ne saban na je ko tabon ki jiburi tabon. Rapa gas me te muti jo. Muriyo rapa muti je wadago. Wala na nya mai na gas me te no mai le mang ta ne mbi ti. Ngo bara bo mo ngala de ne go mo. Are chokwa da na uri nuru ni sawa no. Brio ne mawe.
that small group should not be used to sabotage the benefits of the larger group.
How does someone's insistence on remaining in his home become an act of sabotage?
Probably sabotage is a stronger word, but to fail the resolution of the problem.
Do you think it's more the case that maybe historically and today, the government of Uganda, today acting through Uganda Wildlife Authority, is the one that has failed to manage the way Ugandan people can relate to their natural resources?
If there is failure, it's on both sides. It has to be on both sides.
Why are we saying land? We are only reclaiming land because all these intellectual rights are resting on this land. But for us, our thinking is beyond land. We need land, we need the caves, we need the rivers, we need the mountains. You see? So even up to today, we have those things documented, which we wanted like grazing, like ancestral land, but we don't know why the lawyer dropped it.
Kiri kumi jate jo, kiri kuno indo sumu kio hangman kore kunala gayo, kore kunala gayo. Jajara jetum, do jetumi, oje yo. Ko ini kiki sa kweta katena. Ogo koi oje won. Kiki sa kwet kiki oje rat keben, kiki nyoto kame lakwenyi, ini kame podit. Kiki oje rat keben ini ogo sa sen ne kiki nyindi nyole, anki kame rai. Daji gameri ndi yole kiki sa kwetena sabab. Pa sangie tum kwa beta, tum kwa beta. Umi yo to gumi. Do gimi gumi yo to le. Ukwa bi ko boruri pokola. Yo je gotte je kwa udelle. Ojo nyod late. Kiki gar sabab masije yile goge. Onga bano ni je yume. Jengara ge bano bare. Jemi. Jemi nyala ga yo, Umi nyala ga ko ndaga nyami. Kami nyala kamo kong tanya, boleh diminta dia. Ya teh juga betul gara-gara. Ya teh ikut, kita agak kui kacau kita.
Mengat keribu ke jaga ke jemi aja pene lagi jeriba aja kore ke jaga ngun. Agai tarat nyema jilu loy ke ama maji urton ba mawana ke maciem balane tu ku cecanggot. Nda ku kwa biga kasumit le tagu uriya ke di jaga itu apa kebesion nyema mi ke tingnya tapo. Ngani ala go ting set ke jitinya jaga mi ke mana jasuman. Wanti na ke ba tanggo tinya ngeraten ke bagaje ba tagu juita. Maci ke suman nyani ne. Ciku bice je yugu nyagore kasumit. Tabana je banda aja kubal jana. Amnya ke mi ke jaga ke jito nyagore. Polis shadin ke di kiam nyele ke jito nyagore lagi mi. Kubitos pa denda aja kuwe jita kora dele mamu jagi amge.
About the management capacities of specifically the community that was living inside that forest, even by the time it was declared a forest reserve as far back as 1936. Are you insisting that government of Uganda today has a better capacity and a better track record to look after that forest than then?
That one I can say it confidently, yes.
Why?
I mean, these people have forces around them, because others, I mean, if you say you now the Benet are managing this, the others forces will come and overrun them. So
isn't one of those forces government of Uganda, and specifically your wardens who are allowing pit sawyers to...
No.
This system of cutting timber in this form started from 1996. Now, I can tell you how the system works. These are workers. These poles as to support the two poles are to support what the log, while this one is lying down is to make it easy for them to roll the log up to the point where it is convenient for them to cut. Now, when you see this hole down here, that is to make it easy for one to stand and to work very fast in pulling what the saw. So this is now the remainder. This is the leftover, which they have finished. Now they have gone to another place. You can go and see up to here across. This practice is being done all over Mount Elgon, and it is aided by park rangers. It was started by park rangers. They are given money by some people, and also they have taken part in doing so, and they sell the timber. But for us originally, this practice was not there.
At least government has a law. If individuals violate it, that is another issue.
What about if government violates?
Well, government can't. How does government violate it? It can't.
Are you aware of the arguments raging over the degazetting and the handing over of the forest on Bugala Island?
No. Please spare me about those issues. We came to talk about Mount Elgon, yes. So I'm not a judge of government. I'm not going to judge government.
No, I'm trying to answer your question. You asked me how could a government violate a law about forests?
In that particular area, yes, it hasn't. Because the policy is here. The government policy, fragile areas.
Is the Bugala Island forest not one of the fragile biodiverse areas?
Now that one I don't know.
Supposing I tell you that it is, because this is actually stated.
Then you handle it with NFA.
But does that not come back to the question I'm asking? That between the Benet people and other forces around them that you have talked about, would you accept that it is possible even for a government to violate its own forestry laws?
You put it the other way, that it is possible that a government can fail to solve a problem of the Benet for all these years. Now, don't look at this government alone, even look at the past governments. That's the way you should look at it.
It is true that the struggle has been mainly on acquisition of land to the Benet community. But in our background, we have a feeling that the historical sites, that the other benefits, other ancestral benefits in our ancestral lands should be recognized by government, should be given to us. You see? They should be given to us. And we know these places, we know these sites, we know these benefits. Only that recently during the struggle and with the help of our partners, the NGOs, it is true, the question of land was overemphasized. But then that didn't mean that we had decided to only to struggle for land or to demand land as such and leave alone the other part. No. Because we know we are going to suffer a lot as a community or as a people. Because without those things, I can assure you, for example, we were traditional cattle keepers. Without these sites, the caves, where we get the soil leaks for our animals, and without other cultures, we shall perish to exist as a Benet community, as a Benet global community. So we would like to have these things eventually.
We are traveling to Kenya in an area called Nakuru to see our marginalized communities called the Okiek community. The relationship between the Okiek and the Benets are that first of all, we live in the mountains and we share almost the one language. Then we belong to a group which is marginalized. For us, the Benets live in Uganda, and we are also marginalized like the way our friends are marginalized on this side. I think in terms of maybe the victory that we got during the consent judgment, we could say maybe Benet is fair because the government has ruled the case in their favor. Unlike our brothers, the Ogiek community, who have battled in court, and up to now, I hear that they have not won. Only that when you go to their organizations, like in terms of having offices, documentary, they're a bit far from us. I think I'm going to Okiek communities to go there and share ideas. They are also going to learn on us how we have battled with the government, and the case as the government has ruled, the court has ruled the case in favor of us, and we shall also learn from them and then try to encourage one another to work as a network.
Why particularly chosen the Ogieks is because sometimes back in 2004 we had a shared learning event, which again it was innovatively planned. We went across the border without knowing that there are Ogieks across, but in the process of mobilizing other communities, other land rights communities, we came across the Ogieks, and it was a learning event as well. But then the two Benets then, because at that time we only had the two Benets representatives, they were so excited, and indeed they were so excited to meet the Ogiek community, and they drew a lot of lessons from the interactions. And in those lessons actually informed a lot of their struggles later on when we came back, in terms of their mobilization strategies, their representations at the different forums when they were representing their communities and their struggles, which I felt, and the few whom we went with, do acknowledge that it greatly contributed towards their success.
This place is Mariashoni, which is perhaps I can say it's the heartland of Ogiek, because this is where we still have the accent of the Ogiek. You may go to other parts, although within, I can say those in Nandi, they speak Nandi accent. Those in Koibatek, they speak a bit of Tugen accent. So we are being, as here in Mariashon, we still retain our own accent, which is the pure and original Ogiek accent. Ogiek are a hunter-gathering community which lives actually in the forest.
Kugi kukosigil orere ni Uganda, orere ni Kenya, orere ni Tanzania, ko chito ni kare renjini ko chichilil. Kugi ngosi serikali tuhuru, kuma tako gerlet, ko kibononi engita genge. Mami chito ne chome chito ne tinye oil. Amu oil ko sobetab ngwony. Ko siger ko magichameche ko emoni nyo ko mami kiy ne mabitu. Iger ketik, iger amitwogik ko kiyon magichomech. Ko ger tuga, ko ger nego, mami ko oil ne kitinon. Ko kiyon magichomech. Ndoki mi desert ko yupi chumi northeastern, tos mami orere takot ne kitebech. Ko sama ko yunon ko mi ko yuni. Niger ko yu Saddam Hussein sige borote sikoib tuguk biikab US. Ko oil agenge ko ketichu. Amun ngwalda ketino foresti komachome inai siri ile kaalda siling ata. Nebo oeng ko iniger bechu kibole. Mi yu beek chemi yu malo kilomita moja. Ko kitegan bichu akot moye ngwony yun ko cheyoen irrigation erongai ko cheche aldoyen town komachome akobo mali chami emoni.
If the government has committed itself through the poverty reduction strategy, through the economic recovery strategies and all, that land reforms are necessary for poverty eradication, we cannot then run away from land redistribution. If we are committed as a nation to land reforms, land redistribution is not an either or. It is something that we must deal with.
When you get like a oh, get like you talk to go me where oh, me where good me that good Mrekandenya with it. Whoa, yeah, that made that when you get like a oh, get like you talk to go me where oh, me where good me that good Mrekandenya with it. Me where good oh, Baba. You don't want to take oh, baby. You do a sack oh, Mama. Sakita go in the way, oh, Baba. Get a dead around oh, Baba.
Alamida so toile, aso digle, Jago Nambarella corre, Katomi to be a Jew, Pigala Gaje, Mujagu Gold, Sata Gata Golden Gay, Kupong Babu to the jaw, and Moji, Bokwajan, Yamajin,
Usually eat Bane.
Piga Edison. Ago Piga Jagure, Amujanga Tabonam, Manasama, Mujanga Pradella, Piga Jabondo, Piga Edison. Ago Bigala Churunuta Galaki, Muchak to Kupa, Jamida, Jagam Kupa, enjoy the Jamida, more and Jagamata Kuan to me, which is the Jitokal was saying, what you put a jam. Amajale, yes, at Kale. Amaj suggestion bala para chagasle, the chalo disse, Kupilla name Magia person. Taga Tinaga Aja, Yemana Giagona, Taga Toga, like Kupilla.
Rato logere rundenyile kyo tume ke kuminga la kutabone. Pinyi jo mi to tumra be se jo bute jibe mogo sut pade. so tinyi le aye makie butrai ni tabon wolo gi butoeke
e ko nyor ko tanya tabon ko kwam to ka ngainta tu su gurmai ya ke je bale ade de o bi ko ye sa ke ta bale ade de o baba ye na gami de de yango ye o baba da me bagum nya de do ye so bi ko da me gum nya de do Misaga me guri to so nyo Misaga me guri to so Adegi ngagari kwa umreka Adegi ngagari kwa bok umreka Kera jeta gen